Hey, come see us on tour. We're going to be in Duluth, Georgia, outside of Atlanta, Jacksonville, Florida, Tempe, Arizona, and Burbank, California. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets. So I also know that you have a long history of teaching in prisons, right? So you teach African Americans in prison, and it's very commendable. And I wanted to show you this because this is an ex-con. So my friend Russell Dobler, who does a show for Due Dissidents, and he titles this "Ex-Cons for Trump, Activists at the DNC Protests." And I'll play it for you, and I just wanted to get your reaction.
All right, so you support Trump?
Yes, I support the office.
And you also support Palestine?
Yes,
Well,
absolutely.
you know Trump doesn't, though, right?
I don't have nothing to do with that. I'm against the Democratic Party. It don't matter if it was Mickey Mouse in the office or Republican office. I'm voting for Mickey Mouse. So it's not about the personality. His issues, not my issues.
Okay, but if you support Palestine, do you not like that he supports Israel?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So you're choosing to look past it, basically.
That's I've been dealing with this Democratic Party that's caused disinvestment to our community for 60 years. So it's time to get rid of them. So if it could be the devil in office, I'm voting for him against that devil over there.
Okay, do you actually like Trump, or you just like him better than the Democrats?
I want Trump to dislike Trump. That's the problem with human beings. You dislike people you don't even know. And that's the problem with racism. That's the problem with sexism. That's the problem with all those things. So, it's not about who's in office and who's sitting in office. Look who's sitting in office now. The Democrats. So who you going to pick? Who you going to pick? Which devil you picking?
All right, so you don't feel like because Kamala Harris is a black woman that you have to support her?
What's she black at?
You don't feel she is?
Black? She's not for us. You know how many black people, Obama was so-called black. Look at our communities in Chicago. And this is his city.
Do you feel Trump did better for those communities?
Yes, absolutely. 100%.
In what way?
Clinton 94 crime bill ushered us into prison. Trump's second step has released 50,000 of men that the Clinton crime bill over sentenced. So everybody, even a clock is right a broken clock is right twice a day. So it's always good and bad. You can find that in both.
So I said that was a big problem with Hillary Clinton in 2016. They wanted black people that her husband had locked up with the crime bill to vote for them. And even the New York Times discovered this when they went to barbershops in Milwaukee and found out that black people there wouldn't vote for them for that reason. And they said they voted for Barack Obama twice and their lives got worse. So Trump actually did the step back, which is the opposite of the crime bill, which freed black people who were over sentenced. He brings it up. And I just wanted to are you surprised by that, or do you hear that kind of thing?
No. So let's be clear about when Biden was instrumental in this with the 1994 omnibus crime bill. So that essentially it created 3 strikes you're out. So you have essentially people sentenced for nonviolent crimes for life without parole. You had a doubling of the prison population. We went roughly before that from about 700,000 to 2.3 million. You saw all sorts of coercive measures. I mean, 94% of people who go into prison, they never get a jury trial. They are coerced into pleading out. So the whole judicial system is a farce. Then you have all these enhancement sentences so that, I always tell my students, I ask them to guess, do you know how many years Gabriel Princip got for assassinating the heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne? But they can never guess. It was 20 years. I've taught people who have life sentences for nonviolent crimes. Half of my class wouldn't be in prison, in prison, in that prison classroom, but for Biden and Clinton. And then you have NAFTA on top of it, so you've deindustrialized these urban centers. Emile Durkheim, in the great French sociologist, in his book, he writes about, it's a book about suicide, but he writes about how you knit yourself to a society, you create social bonds, and work is absolutely fundamental to that. So you take that away. You revoke the possibility of meaningful work in these areas Malcolm X called our internal colonies. You need other forms of social control. That becomes militarized police, and it becomes this vast carceral system where we have 25% of the world's prison population, although we are less than 5% with sentences that are unlike anything seen in any other country in the world. So my students in the prison, I've taught at Princeton, I've taught at Columbia, I've taught at these schools, and I say this over and over, but it's true. My students in that prison who are getting college degrees from Rutgers, many graduating summa cum laude, the level of discussion in that prison classroom begins at a level that I can't even reach in a Princeton classroom, because these people all want to become part of the 1%. That's why they're there. These people understand the corruption of the judiciary. They understand why the police function as the way they do, as internal armies of occupation. They understand, the consequences of deindustrialization. They get it. They get it in a way that the elite do not. And I thought, the person they interviewed, obviously intelligent, obviously articulate, and has a political consciousness. I'm not sure I would support Trump, but he has a political consciousness that quote unquote liberal class completely lacks and doesn't get. And it's the Democratic Party that did it. They sold out the working class. They sold out the poor. They continued to speak in that feel your pain language of liberalism, while thrusting a knife in the back of the very people that at least a segment of the Democratic Party once protected and cared about. And they've abandoned, and they deserve all of the rage and hate that they get.
And, I just, I try to, so I have all my friends still in Hollywood, or my ex-friends, who pat themselves on the back. And I've had people come on the show and say, yeah, the Democrats are bad, but they're not as bad as the Republicans. They're a little bit better. They care more about workers. And then I point out that Joe Biden squashed a union strike for the railroad. And they're almost not even aware of it. They still don't know that people in Flint don't have clean drinking water, that people of East Palestine, Ohio have been completely abandoned. The whole how much longer do you think the identity politics can work?
I don't think it's going to work much longer. But you're in Hollywood, I'm in Princeton, New Jersey. These are the people who benefit from the system, and they don't want to know. They don't want to see. I live 20 minutes from Trenton. It was one of the poorest cities in America. And there was a food pantry, ran out of food because people are running out of food. And the wealthy housewives of Princeton were going door to door collecting cans of food. And they came to the door, and I gave them some food, obviously. And the woman said, "Oh, good, that's good. We've got to get them food or they're going to come here." Well, that kind of sums up, where the liberal class is.
Yeah.
They don't want to know how bad it is. They don't want to know what they're responsible for. They don't want to accept the pain. Look, that mass incarceration, it's not just the people who are incarcerated. And I've taught in women's prisons, by the way. And when the women go to prison, their children are taken from them. And if you go into the women's prison at night, they're on the phone weeping to the children that have been taken from them. The disruption of those families, and then you have Global Tel-Link, and the owner of Global Tel-Link, multi-billion-dollar industry, because prisons are a multi-billion-dollar industry. They jack up the phone rates. Well, the only way an incarcerated parent can talk to their child, they're paying 10 times what you and I pay. This guy sits on the board. He's the chairman of the board of trustees for Princeton Theological Seminary. Look, that's not for me. That's, it might as well be putting a slaver. The liberal class deserves the kind of hatred that it gets, because it has divorced itself from issues of class, issues of economic justice, and focuses on this boutique activism of inclusiveness and identity politics, which, when it's divorced from class issues, is really just a form of kind of narcissism for the elite.
Do you think there's a party realignment happening? RFK Jr. said that yesterday, that there's been 5 party realignments in our country's history, and he says he thinks there's one happening. And he pointed to the fact that the people who voted for Joe Biden own 71% of the country's wealth, and the people who voted for Trump only own 31% of the country's wealth. And I just wanted to get your opinion on that.
Yeah, there is, but I look at Trump as a kind of con artist. I mean, I think he is effectively addressing and speaking to that despair, but I don't think he's going to ameliorate it. That's the tragedy. But the despair is real, and the Democratic Party won't even acknowledge the despair, and they won't acknowledge their responsibility for causing it. That is the fundamental problem. Everybody
check out Chris Hedges' new show. It's available on YouTube, Rumble. It's also his the Chris Hedges Report podcast. It can also be found on his Substack at chrishedges.substack.com. It's always a pleasure to talk with you, Chris. I appreciate
Jimmy,
your insight and your work.
Yeah, you do great work.
Okay, I appreciate you saying that. Thank you very much. Right back at you. Hey, come see us on tour. We're going to be in Duluth, Georgia, outside of Atlanta, Jacksonville, Florida, Tempe, Arizona, and Burbank, California. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets.